Good morning, everyone, and we're the Beattys, and we're just another day at the office. And today we're filling the Humpy boxes. We sent the last of them out a couple months ago, and it's a lot easier to fill orders if you already got the product in place. So we're going to be working on those. Gretchen sizing hackle, and I am over here putting a hook in the vise.
I like to keep hackle sized ahead so that I can just hackle his flies.
Now, as you can see, I'm going to probably have to stop before this is all done because I'm almost out of red floss, but never fear. I have another spool here ready, so I'll switch out here in a bit. But for now, let me switch over, and you can see off on the far left of the screen, a little bit of green showing up there. I got a bunch of tools laid out for another presentation that we're going to do this coming Friday morning, or Friday at noon. So I've moved another table in here with my materials for these flies, and today I'm using moose for the tail and elk for the wing, and then another elk for the hump. And then I'll pass that fly off to Gretchen with everything attached to the hook, and all she has to do is stand up the wings, divide them, and put on the hackle. So we kind of share our duties on this. It's one of the flies that we team tie. Doesn't mess up the overall proportions of the fly. I'll move back to the vise where I should have been in the first place. I'll get rid of all the waste. I just got rid of all that waste there. And
something interesting too. I got this feather and I just picked it up and I thought it was a 12, and I look at it, no, it's a 14. So then I turn it over and I do the other side, and the off side seems to be a 12, so I'll use it. Sometimes you come up with feathers that are not the same on each side.
Yeah, sometimes you get feathers, not very many from Whiting Farms, but once in a while, and other places where you'll have as many as 3 different sizes in the pattern. Now I'm measuring this tail for length equal to the hook shank, and I want you to notice that the bundle of hair for the tail, when I give it a twist, is just about even with the outside diameter of the hook eye, and that's the proper amount of hair for the tail, a bundle about that size.
It's almost a little long. I'll set it aside.
Now the humpy that I'm tying today is a 3-part, meaning we use 3 different bundles of hair for it. And this hair right here is off of the backbone of the animal. It's much stiffer and denser. It's good wing hair. While this hair here, to the far right of your screen, or not the top, more towards the top of your screen, I guess. Anyway, this is off of the rib area, and that's what we'll use for the hump. So let me cut a piece of this hair out. Get ready to do my wings. Now, there's a bunch of waste in this, and to get rid of the waste, I grab a hold of the tips and I rapidly run my finger up and down through that waste, and it just kind of works it out without building up static electricity, which is the problem here in the Rocky Mountain West where it's so dry. But I don't want to do that in front of the camera and get dust and stuff all over the camera, so I'm going to move off screen over the waste bin and clean that out. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that one I think is a 14. I got it in my 12s for. Nope.
You must have a bad hackle
Nope,
there.
found
You're kind of muttering.
Yeah, part of it was 12, part of it was 14.
I just sprayed down with Static Guard just a few minutes ago, and it's still sticking to me really bad. So I'm going to have to go off camera for just a moment and grab my can of Static Guard right here and give my hands and my materials a spray again. Cut down on some of that. Give my hair stacker a bit of a spray.
I think I'll drink a little coffee while I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, I'm kind of running behind. One of the things about doing these Beattys at work, we don't just sit down and tie flies. We got to turn on the Zoom studio, and that takes darn near as long as it does to tie the doggone flies. Anyway.
I thought I'd show this on just while I'm sitting here. Here's my big jar full of rejects.
Yeah, so we do make a mistake sometimes.
Kind of cool. Well, and some of it's just investigations, you know.
Yeah, we try out stuff, or some of it is just a hook with some thread on it. When we were in a Zoom demonstration explaining how to do a certain function, and then we, rather than take everything off the hook, we just say the heck with it and get another hook out rather than cutting it off the hook and all of that. Now I'm going to tie my winging material on, and I want a bundle of hair for winging material that's about twice as big as the tail. Got a little bit too much there, so let me get rid of some of that. And I managed to mess it all up, so I'm going to have to restack it. So if you got something going there, Gretch, you can.
No, I really don't. I was just thinking maybe I should grab one of those saddles over there and buy some more hackle.
That would, we can always use size tackle. It seems like whenever you set down the tie, you're always running short. There, I got that broken one out of there without messing it all up. Going to measure my tail for length, or my wing for length, tie it on the side, gentle turns. Now I'm going to put down and really tighten it up, and it rolls that wing hair right in place. And I'm going to wrap up and over the tail waist, and that starts building the hump on this fly. I'll get here towards the back, cut that off. Really makes a mess, doesn't it? Looks awful, but that's part of what we do when we tie humpies this way, is we build part of the hump out of the waist from the wing and the tail, and it makes for a lot easier application of the hump itself. I'll let you decide, Gretchen, but these wings might be a little bit short. It takes me a moment. I should have gotten out one of my hackle pliers and put a hook in it so that I have a gauge. Forgot to do that. I'll just do that right now. All right, that's checking that for, well, you know, that's might be just a little bit short, but it's not bad. All right. Now I'm going to move back over to the materials, and I'll get about half of what I would normally need for the hump, because I've already formed part of the hump with the waist from the tail and the wing. So it's a much smaller bundle of this. And you already know that I'm going to get rid of the waist, so I'm going to go back to the vise. But first I'm going to stop by the waste bin and get rid of all the trash so that I can come back here to the vise and just tie this on. What I do to do this is kind of an important process. First off, I'm going to cut this square. Now, I'm going to set this right in the middle of the body area. And right now, I guarantee you, if I pull straight down on that thread, it's going to slip off of that bundle of hair. But if I pull down and back in this direction that I'm pointing with my scissors, it will capture that hair and not come off. Just that little maneuver coming back like that keeps it from sliding off of the bundle of hair. And we'll kind of cover wrap over all of that. Whoops. Just hit the end of my thread.
Oops.
So let's see if I can salvage this. I'm taking,
I think I've got most of this all cleaned up, ready to go. What have I got this one clear over there for? This one's almost well, it's a dark bar ginger probably. Nice.
that's going to be a good one for mixing grizzly and
Almost-
brown.
Almost looks like Cree.
Yeah,
In fact, it might be Cree. It looks like those bars go clear to the side. That's how we
you know,
determine.
when whiting grades their hackle colors, a dark bar ginger becomes a dark bar ginger if less than 30% is, or if the Cree is less than 30%, it gets graded as a dark bar ginger.
Well, look at this. That's a dark bar ginger, isn't it?
Just a
I mean,
minute.
that's a Cree right there.
Sure is.
So I'm going to hold this up so you can take a look. We look at these bars on it. They come clear to the edge. I don't happen to have a dark bar ginger, I don't think. I was going to compare the two. Well, let's see. Let's see what this one is. Nope, that's another Cree. Look at that.
Well, it's better to be lucky than good, Gretch.
Yeah. Where'd I come up with all this Cree hackle, I wonder?
Well, it's like I said, it's a good idea to be lucky. All right, I got the first body for you. Those wings might be a little bit shy.
Okie dokie.
I'll measure with my gauge after this. I don't know how you people are, but for me, tying on wings, I invariably get the darn things too short if I don't use a gauge. Starting my thread base, actually it's floss, single strand floss, in the center of the hook, wrapping to the end of the shank and then back almost all the way, stopping just shy of that position so I can use the bulk of the tail material. Won't sneak forward on the hook too much. I'll get just
I'm starting to divide these wings. Just turn that vise a little bit so it's a little easier for me to see. I don't know if it's get those evenly divided, and then I'm going to come down between them twice. And then I'm going to come back around this way from the other side. Now I'm going to post that wing. Notice I'm catching all those stubble ends that he left. That really makes that a strong wing, and it also ensures that those hair in the pump aren't going to pop out.
You're pulling those into the base of the wings then, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm trimming off the waist of the tail, and now I'm going to advance the floss forward almost to the 1/3 position. And I'll go back over and get the winging material, which remember that comes off the backbone of the animal.
Okay.
And I'll go to the trash bin on my way back to the vise.
This nice long hackle. I'm just going to verify where I want to start tying it in. I think I'm going to clip it off right there on that bottom part. I'm probably going to put in the 10 file. This is an interesting hackle. Wow.
Well, let's see. We've got
I
a
think
bad
that
one right
was,
there to get rid of. I know the fish don't care. Maybe even the anglers don't care, but I hate seeing broken tips in any of the flies we send out the door. So that's what I was doing right there, is getting rid of those broken tips. And here's one that didn't stack good, so I'll get rid of that.
I'm not happy with my sizing. I thought these were all, I had them down to 12s, but I hold them up to the hook and they seem kind of long. Huh. You sure that's a size 12 hook?
It's size 12 hook, Gretch.
Jeez.
Okay, I'll tie these
Well, this is
wings on a
definitely
little
a
extra
12.
long now that I've got a gauge. And I'll take the spare hook as a gauge. And those wings are just a little bit long. I'll make them a little bit shorter and tighten up and roll them into place.
I'm gonna tie on my hackle.
Trim off the waist, leaving a big bump so I can
There's a
fill
little
that in.
twist in this hackle. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Yeah, I think you can. So I'm going to get rid of that twist. Just I could force it around, but when I'm tying two hackles, I don't know. Now, the thing about two hackles are that you can tie them off all at once, wrap them and tie them off all at once, or you can tie them in succession. And if you tie them in succession, you can end the first one a little short of where you're going to end the second one. And I pulled that right out, didn't I? Great demonstration. Here we go.
What she's saying is instead of ending up with a big head that has two hackles tied off in it, you tie one off short and then tie the other one off in front of it. They hide each other, and you're only building up a head from the waist of one hackle, not two.
Just trim that one off. And I'll wrap the second one, and I just work it through the first one.
I want you to notice that I'm wrapping up to the back of the wing. You never want to come all the way to the base of the wing, because that trimmed off hair is going to push the wing forward, and pretty soon you've got a problem finishing the fly because there's no room left for the hackle. So you notice that I've got my thread back from the back of that wing about 2 thread turns. I'll pull this bundle up and over, and here's an important aspect. You cannot pull that hair tight enough to do a good job. You have to push it, and I'm going to push from right here in the back forward, grab the hair, push it on the side, make sure that all the fibers in the hump line up with each other and that none of them are crisscrossing over each other.
Just doing my whip finish,
Now,
starting close to the hackle, working towards the eye.
And when I get ready to do the hump, I've already put 2 snug but not tight turns on. I pull up on that hair for the hump, relax, and then tighten up. What that does is position the hump directly on top of the hook. In fact, I don't even need to look. I'll turn it there so you can see, and that perfectly formed body under the hump, if you will. Now, here's where a lot of people get into trouble, is the waist. They try to cut this waist too short right here, thinking that it's got to be hidden in amongst the wings. Well, what I'm going to do instead is cut it extra long so that Gretchen can use the waist ends to strengthen the butt ends of the wing. See how long that is? Well,
My camera seems to be focusing a little high. Maybe
well,
maybe the easiest thing is just,
your device is upside down.
well, I know,
Flip
but
it.
I guess that's okay. It's just when
Let
I
me
do
let me
this.
get you. Let me do a focus on you here.
Yeah, that's okay. Look at that. That's good. Don't you think?
I can't tell from here.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, that is in focus. Yeah, I get over here so I can see it better. Yeah.
I guess it's okay when I turn it upside down. They just can't see everything.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a moment and get some a drink of coffee. My throat's getting a little dry. I'll have
I
another
had some
bite.
hackle here that I thought I had sized, and then when I held it up, it just seemed like it was a little big. I don't know what's going on. Check it, recheck it.
Could be one of those that's inconsistent. That does
Yeah.
happen. For those of you that buy your capes and you pull a feather out now and then and everything, you may not notice the inconsistency in some of the hackle, but when you pull it all out and you size it all in one fell swoop, you find out pretty quick that it's not all as consistent as you might think it is.
Let's
It's
just,
part of why some of the hackles end up with the grading that they do. I've got the wing coming up on the other side there. I'll split it, get the hair back on the side it's supposed to be on. There we go. I want you to notice how I've split that wing. I've kind of spread it out a little bit so it'll make it a little easier for Gretchen to stand those wings up and divide them. And I'll push it back like that. And now you take a look, you see how it's spread out? Take a look at that waist. That's going to blend right into the base ends of the wing. She'll just crisscross and pull them all together, and that'll strengthen the hump and it'll strengthen the wings. Couple of turns and I'll just finish this and pass it off to her.
I'm still fussing with the size of my hackle.
There's one piece of hair that doesn't want to get with the program. That's what we have scissors for. And that's the body that I'm going to pass off to Gretch. Here's a hair right here that isn't with the program either, so it's gone. All right. There you go, sweetie. All right. I know a lot of people consider the humpy kind of a pain in the backside to tie, but I gotta tell you, it's one of my favorites to tie. I'll turn down an order of RS2s or some simple nymph just so I can tie humpies. Of course, we charge a little bit more for the humpies, actually a lot more for the humpies, but I just kind of like tying the darn things. I suppose it's because I spent such a long time trying to learn how to tie the darn things. It did not come easy. Yeah, maybe that's a customer calling for some humpies, yeah? Yeah, I can tell by the way you laid that foam down that it was probably a spam call, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Potential spam.
potential spam, yeah. Boy, there's a lot of that these days, it seems like.
I've gotten smart. I don't even answer them anymore. I get a little concerned. Sometimes it says verified number, which means the salespeople's using somebody else's number. Well, I just about have to answer those because it could be a customer. So those really annoy me when they're using actually a human being's cell phone number. It ought to be a law against that.
All right, moving forward to add my wing bundle. And, oh, shoot, here I left it on that all the time while I was tying on that tail. Sorry, guys.
What's the matter?
Oh, I forgot to switch cameras.
Oh,
I guess I'll be doing several more of these, so it isn't like they're going to miss a whole lot. But they got a good chance to look for a long time at the hair that I'm using. Not that that doesn't make it good, but I cleaned out the waist, and I'll put this in my hair stacker. I want you to notice something. I see this happen a lot of times. Even some of the top demonstrators, they always turn their hair stacker in the same direction. They pull the hair out, and then that's for wings, and they have to turn it around. So they turn it around in their fingers, and it'll become unstacked. They got to redo it. Well, that direction's for tails or trued wings. This direction is for divided wings.
what do you mean trimmed wings?
Trued?
Oh, you said trued. I thought you said trimmed. I'm like, what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Now I'll tie this on a little bit extra long, 2 snug turns, get my gauge, and pull that to length and wrap towards the end of the shank. up and over the waist from the tail. And that helps us form part of the hump for the humpy. I got one wild one that got away from me here, so trim that off. Now I'll just wrap over those trimmed ends and form part of my hump. And then back to the center of the hook, hanging right about even with the hook point. Go back over and get some of this softer rib here for the hump. And I'll stop at the waist bend and get rid of the waist. I forgot what I was doing, and I stuck the hump hair in the stacker to stack it, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep the base ends even and not the tips, because the base is what I tie on and the tips get thrown away. So now I'm back with a second clump of hair over the waistband, getting rid of the waist. Now we'll come back to the hook shank here, and I'll trim this off even. And remember, when I tie this on, I tie it on as close to the end of the hair ends as I can, but you never pull straight down on that because it'll slip right off. But if you pull down and back, like I'm doing right there, it doesn't come off. Yeah, that I'm glad that I'm using this new spool of floss. That other had something wrong with it. Must have been because it was at the end of the spool or something. It just didn't go on as smooth as this is going on. Now remember, I stop a little bit shy of the base of the wing, and I push at the back of the hump to tighten those hairs. You can't pull them tight, you push them tight. And now it gets nice and tight. I make sure all the hair fibers are lined up with each other so we don't have any crisscrosses. That looks bad. The fish don't care, and maybe the customer don't even notice, but I care. All right, I'll pull this up. Trim it extra long so Gretchen has got some waist ends to deal with, to incorporate into the base of the wing. And I'll stand those up, put a couple of turns in front, and she'll finish that off, and there we go with that. And that's what I'm passing off to Gretch. Here you go, Gary. I guess maybe I shouldn't talk so much, and I better keep going because you're getting done quicker than I am. What we do, though, is that when we're tying an order of flies, and if she's ahead, she has to cook dinner or lunch. And if I'm ahead, I have to. I've been kind of lagging or behind a little bit today. It's getting close to lunchtime. I didn't say that. Anybody that heard that, quit laughing out there. All right. Off to the moose. I'll show you, doesn't have a really bad amount of fuzz. I'll show you exactly how I clean out this. But what I'm going to do is go to the offside camera so I can move more out over the table so I won't get it on my near side camera. And I'm going to, now that's how you clean it. And what you're doing is you're knocking everything out of there, but by going up and down, you're changing directions and you're not aligning the electrons and all that kind of stuff up to create more static electricity. You're getting rid of just the waste. So Now back to the near side vise or near side camera. Same vise, two different cameras. All right, I've got some shorties right here. I want you to notice those, and I'm going to get rid of those by grabbing out on the long end here and getting rid of those shorties. They don't have quite the same consistency, and sometimes they'll cause a wild hair to jump up in the tail, and I don't want that to happen. Okay, set it in place, bind it there. Notice that I didn't tie that on all the way forward at my starting point. And you can see, let me move in, tighten this shot just a little bit. You can see right there. And now when I trim this waist, you see that waist falls right on that starting point of the thread wraps. That keeps us from having a problem we call material creep, where things sneak forward on the hook and all of a sudden there's not enough room left on the hook for the last materials, which is the hackle. You know what it looks like when I go get hair and cut it off the bundle, so I'm just going to stay on the vise and go get some more elk.
I'm struggling with this little short piece.
Oh, you're trying to stretch another fly out of one when you ought to.
Yeah.
It isn't like we don't have several thousand more, you know.
But I did it.
Anyway, I'm going to go and I'll clean this one out as well over here on the offside. Rapidly move my finger up and down through the waist ends. And I want to come back to the close side. And you can see now what that does is nurses all that out. So I only grab it once and give it a pull. And it cleans all of that. Now I'm going to have to go to the out away from the camera there a bit. And then I pull that out and the last of it's gone. That cleans it out really good without building up more static electricity.
My hackle turned on me. That's the reason it's not looking right. That little sucker turn. There we go.
I'm having to relearn how to use this camera setup, Gretchen. For 2 years, we had it with the tripod setting in a certain spot, and I couldn't set my hair stackers down. I had an awful time. Well, now I've got room because of a change that we made, and I'm still trying to do it like I did for the last 2 years. Anyway, I'll measure this for length. It'll at least get a general idea. Tie it in place where it looks like it's going to be a little bit long, and verify my length to make sure that it's needs to come in just a little bit. All right, trim off the waist.
You took me off camera.
Oh, I sure did. Sorry about that, Gretch. Let's go back. There we are. Goodness. Yeah, and I bet there was somebody out there just shouting, "Give me Gretchen back, give me Gretchen back." I know it. I know
I
that's what
just
was.
looked up to see what this head looked like on the camera, and it wasn't there.
Oh, you have
And
to
that
keep-
was really an important hackle job that we needed to have on
Yeah,
camera.
it's we probably will never be able to replicate it. will we? Yeah, I know. It's my fault. I'll try to do better next time. Trying to hog all of the fame and fortune here, you know.
Yeah, right.
Now I'm going to stop the waistband on my way back from getting the hair for the hump.
That one's just too long.
Next few days, we're probably going to tie a whole bunch of these as we advance through the. I'll cut that.
I probably
Square.
should have used the big bin for my
Now,
hackle. Wouldn't have been struggling quite so much.
Notice that I'm pulling back on that thread so it doesn't slip off those trimmed ends.
That's what I want to use right there.
All right. Okay, pull forward, push from the back. And you can kind of push and dress forward at the same time. So you are kind of pulling, but you have to start at the back, pushing and then pulling. Now I've got that just about in the place that I want it. I got one crossing over here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's right there. I'm going to take my thumbnail and straighten out that hair. There, now they're all straight. Trim off the waist. Get that hair divided underneath evenly. Don't want any hair crisscrossing under the hook if I can help it. It just kind of throws the balance of the fly off. Okay, starting my thread, my floss base, I guess you could say, in the center of the hook, wrapping to the end of the shank, and back almost all the way, but stopping just short, so we don't, so thread creep, so material creep doesn't cause the waste from the moose tail to creep into the hair area assigned to the wing. Okay, I got that out of the before over the waist spin on the way on the way back to the vise. Grab a hold of far base end so I can get rid of these little shorties. There's one that's got turned around backwards somehow or another. All right, there we go. I'll notice that I drop it down on my side of the hook and allow thread torque to reposition that material up on top of the hook as I tighten it up. Put snug but not tight wraps on it, tighten them up, and it rolls the hair right up on top of the hook. And if it doesn't quite get there, I give it a reef one way or the other to position it so it's there right on top of the hook. Got a couple of strands that slipped over from the other side, so now you notice that lands right on that that allotted space from the thread base. And I'll just get a bundle of hair here for the for the wings.
Notice I'm leaving a little bit of bare hook when I tie it in so that my first like 1/4 to a 1/2 inch wrap is with bare stem, and that keeps the hackle fibers going straight up rather than going towards the back and looking a little messy. Just gives you a straighter, smoother hackle.
Even application all perpendicular to the hook.
Yeah. Wrapping my grizzly, tying it off with 2 wraps, trimming it. Notice I don't push it back in because it's going to be covered up by the brown hackle anyway. Now we come through with the brown hackle, just working it through.
All right, there we go.
You take 2 wraps over it, and notice I kind of pull back towards the back as I come around. That kind of positions it a little easier for pushing it back into the hackle.
Notice I had to fiddle around with that one that didn't want to hide. Now this one a little bit on the side there, you can see one hair sticking up. It'll be covered up by the hump, but I had another one that was doing the same darn thing right down there towards the bottom, and the hump hair would not have covered that up. So I had to get that captured and hidden.
Okay, my whip finish, starting back and working forward. A little bit of glue.
And I'll trim this even, set it in place. Pull back, wrap to the back of the hook, bind it in place and wrap forward, cover wrapping the body.
That hackle I used on that one was a little light, so I'm going to try to go with this one. I think this will be a good one here. It's a nice long one. I've got lots of
Okay, pull it forward,
fibers.
pushing from the back, dressing forward, making sure all the hair fibers line up. There's one that's crossed over, straighten it out. Notice how I took my thumbnail and just pushed right along there, and it's pushed it back into its allotted space there so that we have all the hairs evenly aligned in that hump.
Time for a drink of coffee. I must admit, we don't tie as fast when we're online, do we?
No, not at all. Well, for one thing, we got a camera between us and our work, and you may not think that would slow you down too much, but it does. And we have to, a lot of times we have to reposition the vise for you all to see stuff that we normally would just lean over and say, well, I can see that. Well, you can't see us doing that. So we have to turn the vise so you can see that. And I can verify, instead of looking over my shoulder, I can have to turn the vise around and get things around for you. Here you go, Gretch.
Just in case you didn't notice, I start by putting my thread over the shank in front of the wing, and I hold the waist end back. Now I'm going to wrap over once, twice. That pretty well has it caught for me, and I'll trim it off. Then I turn this a little bit, and so I can see the wings. Make sure I get them pretty even. I'd hate to mess up one of his pretty humpies. And I think I want just a couple more over here.
One of the things I talked about just on the first fly, but the number of fibers that go into the tail is you give this bundle a twist and compare it to the outside diameter of the hook eye and try to get a bundle that's about the same. Well, this bundle is just a little bit big. Well, you get to the point where you can just look at a bundle and know whether it's right or not. But so I haven't been measuring each one. But if you are doing it yourself, you may want to do it until you kind of get a feel for how much hair feels right for the tail and then the wing bundle as well. And by the way, the wing bundle is twice as big as the tail bundle. In other words, twice the diameter of the hook eye. All right, up forward to the 1/3 position. Reach over here and get some wing elk hair for the wing. I'll just move back in here. And I'm going to go to the offside and clean out the waist. And That's all the stuff that I just pulled out of there. And I just kind of wiggled it loose and it'll go into the trash bin. And this is ready to be stacked and we'll tie with it. A little bit too much in that wing bundle. So I'll pull a few fibers out. That's looking pretty good. Gonna set it in there and two snug but not tight turns. And let's verify the length. Hold it in just a little bit and then tighten it into place. Trim the waist. Fill it in behind. There we go, good. All right, get a small piece of that elk for the hair or for the hump. Now I remember that's from the rib area of the animal. It's a lot softer. It's also the same hair that you would use if you were going to spin muddler heads or a spun hair fly of some type or another. Can't tell that it's cold as heck and dry outside today because I just sprayed down a little bit ago with forget that. Sprayed down a little bit ago with Static Guard and it's starting to stick again, so I'll have to spray down again. I think we probably bored everybody about enough here. We'll finish up the ones we're working on and sign off. And there's more than enough here. If you want to see it over and over again, it's real easy to do. Hit the rewind button and take a look at it. Let's see, those all look straight. Yep. I'll bind them in place.
Notice I keep my bobbin and thread in my hand. And then when I'm ready to go, it's right there. So I got my scissors and my bobbin all right in my hand. And I can even drink a cup of coffee while I'm there.
We get so used to having our scissors and stuff in our hands that it's not uncommon that one or the other of us is cooking dinner and we find we still have our scissors in our hands. Just stuff happens. Well, I'll start a thread base on this one and trim this off. Go over here and let's wind it up with that's a wrap for now on this Beattys at Work. We're on every Friday with a fly tying clinic at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. You're welcome to join us. Send an email and we'll put you on the invitation link. Anyway, that's a wrap for now. We'll see you next week.